Welcome to the second meeting of our webinar series on designing implementation of NSTP via flexible learning. First of all, I want to thank the Commission on Higher Education and the Office of Student Development Services headed by Dr. Silvet Ginigundo and staff, the PISNE officers headed by Major Ermi Paba, together with Dr. CJ Vidal, who is spearheading our webinar, the DND ROTC personnel present in this gathering, and to all participants who are present in here, good afternoon. Our coming together today is the beginning of facing the challenges of the COVID-19 in the implementation of the National Service Training Program. And we encourage everyone that as we face these challenges, let us work together for progress and stay together to ensure success of the program. It is a fact that for the last several months, we felt the effect of COVID-19 outbreak. The unprecedented outbreak of COVID-19, which resulted in the implementation of various quarantine, has greatly affected the education system, and the NSTP is not an exemption. Efforts has been made, but it has not been contained that great challenges were brought about by this health crisis. So in spite of frequent announcement of observing the health protocols, resistance of people in the community to follow IATF guidelines is high, for they are not afraid on the effects of COVID-19, or they are influenced with the call of living. So as a result, this will serve as a threat on the safety of the students and we trainers as well. This also causes limited movement to ensure proper implementation of the program. According to President Duterte in his SONA, no face-to-face classes till January 21, 2021, or until there will be vaccine to this COVID-19 virus. But through the recommendation of Secretary Briones and Dr. Prospero de Vera, our chair on the Commission on Education, that education must continue. Classes will start by August 24, 2020, noting that no face-to-face classes will be allowed until the request of the LGU and the school concerned can only happen under conditions set by the Department of Health or the Department of Education or the CHED and the IATF. So with this scenario, CHED ordered HEIs to use flexible learning as a modality in the delivery of programs. Just recently, the CHED has established the Field CHED Connect as a repository of information to facilitate online learning. So everybody is encouraged. All HEIs are encouraged to work together, that we educate as one. According to Secretary Briones and our chair on the Commission on Higher Education, Dr. Prospero de Vera, education must continue, but the congestion of classes must be observed and there should be no face-to-face classes. With this directive, HEIs are encouraged to use flexible learning as a modality in the delivery of program because he believed that flexible learning will not compromise education of the tertiary students, and NSTP is a part. But the question is, are the institutions ready to use the modality considering the need of technology or the facilities and trainers to conduct the program? Maybe the answer of institutions is yes, no, or we are moving towards that point of being ready. Under the NSTP program, many schools are facing challenges on how they will go about implementing the program. So we have to move on to face the realities as an effect of this COVID. Flexible learning is a combination of offline and online, residential and non-residential system to adjust learning process and condition of students and teachers, the capability of the university in terms of technology, and mix up with the idea to the congest classes to obtain the learning outcomes without necessarily having the traditional way of holding classes. That is from Dr. Prospero de Vera, our chair of the Commission on Higher Education. So flexible learning is a method of learning where students are given freedom on what, how, when, and where they learn. Because flexible learning is a student-centered approach of learning. Flexible learning also includes contact learning, whether it is face-to-face, online or offline, synchronous or asynchronous through the various flexible learning options. Example, distance learning as a modality could be the online or offline approach of delivery. Under distance learning, using the e-learning, it could be online, while offline could be paper-based distance learning. So the NSTP group are guided with the flexible learning options, and we have the following: distance learning, apprenticeship, homeschooling, face-to-face, and blended learning. The choice is dependent on the kind of activities you do. Specifically, flexible learning options like distance learning is an online, offline with structured learning parameters. It is the most viable and independent learning mode using the supervision of parents, especially those who are still young. And it is also a remote education where students are not physically present in the lesson class. Like example, we have that correspondence course. And this distance learning are delivered through online TV program and the like. There are also HEIs regularly offering the distance learning system, and most of them are offering it online and on printed module. So flexible learning includes apprenticeship, is a kind of job training that involves following and studying master of trade on job instead of in school. An example of this is the on-the-job training and work on technical job. The next one is homeschooling. Learning is done at home, and the parents serve as mentors, and they see the school manager either once a week or depending on the policy as adopted by the school and parents. Learning materials are also provided by the school to obtain learning outcomes. For the face-to-face learning, this is the traditional way of teaching and learning. And this is the one that we are used to have it as an approach in the delivery of learning. In here, Face-to-face learning is a method where course content and learning materials are taught in person to a group of persons. So this kind of modality is limited at this point in time because we are not allowed to use face-to-face as a mode of learning due to COVID condition. And the next one is blended learning. Blended learning is a combination of face-to-face, online, offline, synchronous or asynchronous, or modular learning delivery blended together with specific features of elementary health protocols to obtain desired outcomes. Blended learning also allows students to enjoy a flexible learning setup at their own pace, time, and convenience. And it has the following features. It mixes face-to-face learning delivery. It affects social distancing. It decreases the volume of people outside the home at any given time. Flexible learning also includes modular approach, and it is a combination of the traditional approach of learning together with face-to-face as an example of the traditional. And face-to-face is not yet allowed at this point in time. For emphasis offline learning or offline modular approach, this could be offline in the form of module and printed material, book with activity sheets or worksheets brought home by students. While online modular approach, lessons are done with the use of connectivity through the various applications and gadgets, cell phones, laptop, personal computer, and other digital resources. I'll repeat. This could be offline in the form of module and printed materials, book with activity sheets or worksheets brought home by students. That's the modular approach. While online lessons, this could be done through the use of electronic ebook with PDF file and interactive with the use of tablet, mobile, phone, laptop, and personal computer. And under online, we have also learning management system, the LMS. It is a software application for administration, documentation tracking, reporting, delivery of educational courses, training programs, and learning and development programs. Many companies are providing a scheme, especially the book companies. They just put the book in the computer system and offer it through online. These online uploaded lessons are answered by the students. We have also this approach like the synchronous and asynchronous. If we say synchronous, students engage in course activities at a specific date or time requiring that everyone be online for a scheduled event. An example for this is you have a specific date, for example, your time, Saturday at 8 o'clock to meet your students online of a given activity through Zoom meeting for your orientation. So online is under synchronous. Online, it has a specific time and event. While asynchronous, students engage in course activities at any time, contributing at their own pace. Example is home study program using module that they can do it anytime at their convenience. Open learning that fits around work or life at home. So in here, schools can have online uploaded lessons also and answered by students using Google Classroom, video chat, Facebook, Skype, or Zoom. Or generally, blended learning includes face-to-face, but at this point in time, it is limited. Students do not go to school every day. If ever, they have to observe social distancing and other health protocols. So it depends now on the university or school policies.
When you think of learning,
Teka muna. To give you more insights on blended learning, I will show you a video to adapt your ideas.
when you think of learning, what comes to mind? Undoubtedly, your thoughts will turn to the traditional classroom, featuring an instructor standing in front of a group of students, imparting years of wisdom. In recent years, you may have been exposed to WBT, or web-based training, also known as e-learning. The benefits of learning online can't be ignored. Less travel, learning at your own pace at the time of your choosing, and wearing your pajamas to class. Classroom learning typically succeeds or fails based on the abilities of the instructor. WBT learning succeeds or fails based on the quality and instructional design of the learning module. So which is the best way to empower your team with the skills they need to be most effective? In short, neither. Rather than making the decision to go with just one form of learning, why not combine the best elements of both? Blended learning does just that. It takes WBT and combines it with classroom instruction to create a learning experience that produces better learning outcomes in a shorter time frame with a higher job skill effectiveness. So how are these amazing claims achieved? We start with the top of the line, interactive, online learning modules that allow the student to grasp the foundational information at their own pace. Frequent knowledge checks, practice, games, and user interactions keep the students engaged. Post-tests measure the students' command of the content and point to any weak areas that need to be improved. Next, students gather in a classroom environment where the instructor is freed from spending valuable time covering the basics. Instead, the instructor builds upon the foundational knowledge and introduces higher-level concepts, which are then related to the students' specific work responsibilities.
Ang labugi, mahina po yung audio.
Project together to put
Mahina
all their
daw.
learning into action.
Mahina daw.
Be warned, however, that simply because you have WBT paired with a classroom event does not guarantee a successful blended learning outcome. The OpusWorks cloud-based learning platform has been finely tuned over many years to orchestrate successful blended learning classes for both students and instructors. Modules, testing, assignments, materials, games, videos, class dates, message boards, instructor chat, class polling, project tracking, reporting, statistics, and more, all combine to form the backbone of the learning experience. When teamed with properly trained instructors, the results are simply unbeatable.
Okay, the ideas presented could be used as flexible learning options in the implementation of NSTP, and that's blended learning. So specifically, if we talk of flexible learning in the context of NSTP implementation in the new normal, is a process of building the flexibility among trainers and trainees, the ability of both to adjust what is considered to be normal in the new normal. So flexibility is the name of the game today because it is an action needed to face together the normal thing in the new normal time. An example of this is you can teach well this time if you will not catch up with the technology requirement of the course. So you got to know the different application using the gadget for you to be implementing the lesson well. You got to be technology friendly to cope with the need of being flexible at this time of pandemic. So as trainers, now, how flexible are we to respond to the needs of the students now that there is less or no face-to-face classes? So flexibility is manifested if there is a schedule given. Example, when the student needs something, the trainer is ready to give intervention and enrichment to help the students and give action to improve learning experiences. We need to adjust and meet the needs of the learner. Are the students also flexible to face the realities of the program now that no or less face-to-face is allowed in the implementation of the program? So if we say flexibility is the ability for us to adjust what is considered to be a normal at this normal time. For example, the schedule to meet the needs of the learner. That's a specific example. When there is poor connectivity, what will you do? What can you do to help them? When the students need you because they can submit requirements due to COVID-19 affecting the family, or are you ready to give interventions to help the students or give enrichment action to improve learning experiences? So how flexible are you or are we as a trainer, mentor, coach, or advisor now that you only relate with your students through cell phones and internet? So how flexible are you in facing the challenges of the time? So this time, we are really facing challenges, great challenges as NSTP implementers. And NSTP challenges in the implementation of the program in the new normal are many. So what are these challenges? So as I pose to you these challenges, try to assess where you are. The first challenge that we are facing now is the readiness of the NSTP sector. Is your sector ready? The compliance with the NSTP continuity learning plan responding to the need of the new normal. The sector will have to do big things and make necessary adjustments to look into the requirements. So do you have now your NSTP learning continuity plan? So next thing that you have to look into in your office is the curriculum prepared must match with the technology requirement to adjoin the needs of the time. The readiness of the resources like internet connectivity. Is the NSTP office ready with the needed internet connection? Or is the present requirement for the Wi-Fi enough to supply the need of both the students and the trainers? Good if the students have their Wi-Fi at home, so at least they can do their lessons. Next one is, are the devices and facilities? Is the NSTP office ready with all the needed facilities and devices? So you have to ask yourself where you are in now. For the ICT skills, do the NSTP office have technology-ready personnel to handle the training? Under flexible learning, sometimes you cannot avoid meeting the students in classroom. That's why we have also the face-to-face as one of the modalities. But today, it is in a controlled manner. You can do it one by one or 1:10, depending on the agreement or the policy that you will be having it in your respective offices. Another consideration that you have to look into is the classroom size in case you will be using the classroom, because you cannot avoid sometimes that we have to meet them face to face. But now at this point in time, according to the president, there's no face-to-face allowed. So for classroom size, in case classroom is needed, will it be enough observing social distancing? As far as school sanitation is concerned, how often do you sanitize the classrooms that you use for NSTP? So how many schools nurses are required to respond to the need of students in case there are incidents that may happen in school? For safety and security, if you are to use module, how safe are the students if they drop and pick their outputs or worksheets? For the compliance to health protocols, what activity do you have to sustain the implementation of any IATF or school health protocols as required by your school or your university? So for online learning resources, are the online resources available with established links to support the topic as per schedule? Do you have that LMS, Learning Management System, for you to upload all the lessons for the NSTP? For the students also to answer? Or are computers ready for online lessons? Or are these needs available for students and trainees? For offline learning resources, are the books, modules, worksheets now ready? We are about to have the enrollment or class on August 24. Are your books, modules, worksheets now ready? Can the students understand the learning material or the module prepared for them? Or are the students' readiness on the use of the module considered? Added to offline resources, when they read the module that you have prepared, can they understand the module given to them? Or is your module prepared in a self-paced instructional material? Another one is compliance to health protocols. I hope you are always considering these things in your NSTP program. Compliance to health protocols. The sustainability of providing the needs for hand washing and sanitizing or promotion in the prevention of COVID-19 is a big concern for the sector. I know the school or your university, especially your unit in the NSTP, has considered this concern. But what are the specifics that the NSTP sector will do, especially during an STP time? Another challenge that we are facing now, and please evaluate this challenge, whether you have or you are already capable of having it, is the readiness of the faculty. Majority of the NSTP implementors are overwhelmed in the situation caused by the COVID-19 outbreak because there will be less or no face-to-face as traditional way of handling the program. Are they ready to use the delivery approach from traditional to digital? For the devices and facilities, do trainers have complete devices and facilities to use the program implementation? Do they have their own laptop? For sure, everybody has cell phones, but is it complete? How about the other resources that they will be needing? In some other schools, they are giving a laptop loan to their faculty so that they will be ready facing the challenges of the time. They give loan at low rate of interest. I hope the school also, your school also will make a remedy on how to provide devices and facilities for the trainers. How about the ICT skills? Do trainers have the skill of using the gadget for online? And the readiness of trainers of handling the online or offline training activities. Are all your trainers ready to face these challenges? How many of them are not ready? Who are they? And what are the training do they need in order that you have to work out at this point in time? Like, for example, what applications do they know? Do they have the skill of using the Jamboard, the screenplay, the slide screen, the Synchronous, or Google Classroom and other digital resources? So it's very important that we have to look into all these things. So at this point in time, trainers need more time to prepare training needs for the online and offline activities. The next thing that you have to consider on the readiness of your faculty or trainees, also the observation of health protocols. What health protocol actions will the trainers do to ensure safety of the students and the co-workers? As a trainer, you should be responsible to guide, remind trainees that even the class is at home, one must have the monitoring app that will sustain the implementation of the health protocols to ensure safety of the students. The next one is the readiness of the students to make use of flexible learning options. How ready are the students to migrate from traditional to digital learning? Because everybody is used to have that face-to-face mode of learning. The next one is the availability of devices and facilities for the trainees. Do they have complete devices and facilities to use in the program implementation? The readiness of students on ICT skills. Do they have the skill of using the gadget for the online lessons? Maybe this one is not much a problem to our young ones today because they are techie. They're even more techie than the trainer. So we have to cope up with the level of technology they have. And the next one is the readiness of trainees of joining the offline and online training activities. Are the students' readiness to take the online lessons considered? So while you prepare the activities for August 24, how many of them will take the online or offline? Have you classified all these things together so that you be ready by August 24? Do they have computers or any gadgets to take the online lessons? And of course, in every sector of the NSTP group, we have to make necessary observation of health protocols. And this should be done also by the students. So observation of health protocols as a good citizen. So what are the roles of the students in practicing health protocols as a good citizen, even if they are not going to school? But what will they do? What will be their responsibility as a good citizen, even as they have their lessons at home? So a great challenge is given to all of us. Are all trainers, trainees, and the NSTP office ready to face all the challenges of the NSTP implementation amidst pandemic? So what a challenge to face now that August 24 is fast approaching. These challenges must be addressed as you finalize your NSTP learning continuity plan, for this will lead you to the right direction facing the new normal. So let us take this challenge positively. So challenges are what make life interesting. Overcoming them is what make life meaningful. So let us remember that the greater the challenge we face, the greater the grace of God we expect. So what a big challenge to all of us as NSTP implementors. So are you ready to face the challenges of the time? Face it, see to it that you have to look at it positively so that you will enjoy the work that you have in your respective institutions. Okay, let's have a break. Put your hands on your chest, everybody. Put your hands on your chest. Oh, I cannot see you. Placing your hands on your chest. Feel the beat of your heart. Is your heart beating? Of course, because you are breathing. So you say to yourself, I can feel it. So I can feel it. Tap it 3 times, your chest, and say, I can feel it, I can feel it, I can feel it. Okay, can you do that? Put your hands on your chest, feel the beat of your heart, and say, I can feel it, I can feel it, I can feel it. And say 3 times, I can face the challenges of the new normal by raising your hands. Okay, let's do it again. Put your hands on your chest, feel the beat of your heart, and say, I can feel it, I can feel it, I can feel it. And say, I can face the challenges of the new normal. I can face the challenges of the new normal. I can face the challenges of the new normal. I know you are very strong individuals. Thank you for participating. But we have to consider that in the implementation of our NSTP, we got to be strong facing the challenges of the time. So flexible learning in the context of NSTP is the capacity to customize one's place, pace, and mode of learning. So these are the 3 features that we have to look into as we implement our NSTP program, considering the features of flexible learning. How is it applied in the NSTP? So if we talk of pace, it refers to the speed or nature by which students take or engage in the program. For example, part-time learning to ensure they have time to work. So that's the pacing. Another example for this is the common module. Of course, we are given as per guidelines that we have to finish the common modules in 25 hours. So how will you do it? How will you do the pacing together with your students? Will you be engaging by module till you finish the 5 dimensions of development? Or do you do the module one after the other? Or do you do it after work because your students are working students? So trainer will guide and monitor well the trainees pacing bounded with time given to them. In pacing the lesson of the students, trainer must consider laws affecting the program implementation. And we are all very aware of this one. Example, as per section 4 coverage, letter C of the IRR on common module, it must be done in 25 hours. And there are 5 dimensions of development, like good citizenship training, drug education, environment protection, disaster risk reduction, and national security. So all these areas are the coverage that we can see under the common module. So see to it that the pacing needed, or the pacing or the time needed for the students must be within the 25 hours as specified in the law. So you got to monitor very well how students do their lesson. You have to consider what pacing practices do they have in order that they can really get the expected outcomes of the lesson. Another example for this pacing is this specific module. For the specific module, we have 29 hours. And the specific topics under it are self and Filipino culture, volunteerism, peace education, entrepreneurship, sports and recreation, or introduction to community-based management. For the LTS, they have the literacy and numeracy and other emergency response actions. And it is in this specific module also that institutions will have to identify which of these dimensions you focus on as your learning exercises to develop the skill of your students. So another one is the optional module. And this one comprises 36 hours of training. So leaders, that it composed of leadership, community exposure, and community services. Let's now go to the next feature, and that is place. Okay, place. This feature refers to the variety of setting, rooms, home via internet, and work study program at this pandemic time. So the classroom will be at home already. It's no longer in the school. So sometimes we cannot avoid meeting our students in the classroom, depending on the schedule that you will agree and the permission that will be given to you. So meet them at school once or twice a month, whichever is convenient to the student's schedule. Remember that the world is no longer as it used to be today. Learning now is mostly virtual, and the classroom today is at home. Next. The next feature is learning modality. We have discussed several modalities already a while ago, but as a point of emphasis, as feature of flexible learning as applied to NSTP is the set of guidelines that describe the methods used to acquire the process and maintain knowledge, skill, and attitude. So most people favor different combinations of visual, auditory, reading, or kinesthetic, and using various approaches also like synchronous and asynchronous. So I have shown you this slide a while ago, but I just want to repeat as a mode of, as an approach of learning under blended learning. So students, if you talk of synchronous, we talk of students' engagement in the course activities at a specific date, time, requiring that everyone be online for a scheduled event. While asynchronous, students engage in course activities at any time, contributing at their own space. Offline, I've shared to you what it is already on offline. Written modules, worksheets, activity sheets, or books, books brought home by students. For online, lessons are done with the use of connectivity, using various applications, and the use of gadgets, cell phone, laptop, personal computer, and other digital resources. Next. In the context of NSTP, this modality, I'm now referring to blended learning, is the most appropriate one because it carries the features of a flexible learning. The learner requires close attention of the trainer since time, place, and scheme or methods of learning is controlled by the students, including the use of appropriate technology to empower them finish their lessons. It is also an approach to education that combines online educational materials and opportunities for interaction online or offline. And remember, here students learn via electronic and online media, especially traditional face-to-face teaching is not allowed during this semester. So it is an approach to education that combines online educational materials and opportunities for interaction online or offline. Students engage in materials at their own pace, promote deeper learning, reduce stress, and increase student satisfaction. Use a variety of teaching tools with digital technology, and they make learning more accessible to student personalized pathways. So make the online training get easier than ever before because they take their lessons as if they are taking their home assignments. And they have also easy access to get video to be used during the training. And this kind of modality will allow students continue learning in spite of pandemic. So those are as far as our students is concerned. So what are the requirements also for trainers to consider adapting the flexible learning in the context of NSTP implementation? So these are requirements, so check. Because we are now referring to ourselves as implementers or trainers of the program. So look into the requirements. Being a trainer, your readiness in using the online and offline. Are you ready, my partners? The readiness of the materials to use for program implementation. Are all your materials now ready? Since August 24 is fast approaching. Are your modules ready? Are your online lessons ready now? So as a faculty or as a trainer, it's your responsibility to explain to students the classroom structure for flexible learning options in engaging learners is done individually or in groups. It's no longer like the traditional one that we handle your class only at once a week or every Saturday or Sunday only. But now, the kind of approach we have to look into using flexible learning is what? engaging learners individually or in groups. Another point that we have to look into as trainers also is identify existing program that espouses flexible learning options to address learners' needs. Based on the common module, the specific or optional module, which of these modules require the offline and online lessons? Are we ready for all of these things? Did you classify already which of your module will go on offline or online? The answer of this question lies on your hand. Another point that we have to look into is develop learning plan using materials, hands-on activities, strategies that addresses learning needs. So of the modules, what materials are being used or what strategies are you going to use to obtain the outcomes? So I hope by this time you are able already to study your syllabus, which of these part of the module you will be using online or offline, synchronous or asynchronous, and or any kind of strategies you have to identify to obtain the learning outcomes. The next point that we have to look into as a trainer also is help the students in preparing their individual learning activity plan to show your empathy. So at this point in time, I hope you are now ready with your or example of your individual learning activity plan for your students. Malapit na po ang August 24. Okay, so like the following. How much time is divided to finish the curriculum and meet learning goals? So what's the pacing that you can suggest to your students? It must be included in the plan. So how much time is provided for students to finish the topic by module? So you have to check their pacing. How much class time is needed per week since there will be less or no face-to-face classes? So how do you go about these things? How much time is needed per individual class since you deal with individual trainees or a group of 10 and so on? So look at the pacing, check their time, what mode of learning that you have to be proposing them in order that both you and the trainees will work together obtaining the learning outcomes. And the next one is provide time for monitoring, coaching, and evaluation sessions for your students. So it's very challenging this time. So what monitoring scheme, what coaching style, what evaluation scheme are you going to adopt in order that you can really help the student? And the next one is, and the most important one is, the need to be flexible in handling the program. Because the name of the game now is your flexibility to give interventions in case there are problems faced by your students so that they can meet the requirement that you really wanted them to finish. And last point, the most important thing that you have to look into as a trainer is your desire to share your love and passion of the subject with the students. So how can we measure this one, especially the newcomer, the new staff that you will be getting? What's their passion? How deep is their love in handling the subject together with the students? So it includes also the ability to make the material being stimulating and interesting and a heart with spirit of volunteerism to serve. So as a trainer with a big heart and serve wholeheartedly, receive more blessings from God. I know as NSTP educators, you have this kind of quality. So if not, you will be hard up in the implementation of your NSTP program, especially at this time of pandemic. Just go on helping the students work and work, serve and serve them, because serving is a way of loving our students. So let us now discuss a main concern for all of us as NSTP educators: migrating traditional approach to flexible learning options for an effective NSTP implementation at this pandemic time. So in here, I used a sample, a model called WEDI, the transition your face-to-face learning to digital face-to-face. So in here, it portrayed welcome. First consideration for you to have the transition from face-to-face learning to digital is one. According to this model, you must have a welcoming attitude. So check what kind of attitude do we have now as far as we face these challenges as NSTP educators. Second, the design. Have you designed already your syllabus, for example, suited to this pandemic time? And the third one is the delivery. What delivery approaches that have you identified to deliver the design that you have identified? And of course, we are talking now of our end benefactor, and these are our students. So how are we going to apply this in the NSTP? In the guideline, in the model that we have, is welcoming attitude. So check the flexible learning environment. If we talk of flexible learning environment, we're not just talking of the material things around us, but the heart of the people working within your NSTP office, or the heart of the people, heart of your trainers working within the NSTP office. Okay, so it is commented here that for us to check the flexible learning environment, we must have what? We must have we must have to welcome the challenge with a grateful heart. So if we say welcoming heart, we mean embracing the work with open heart and mind, and the degree of accepting the responsibility to help NSTP meet the program needs in so short a time at this pandemic time. So I hope everybody of your, or all of your staff, are now working together with an open heart and mind as a manifestation of a welcoming heart to face the challenges of the time. So what's the challenge of the time? What's the need? The need for your NSTP learning continuity plan. Do we have already the NSTP learning continuity plan? Because this will guide you on how you will go through implementing your NSTP for the semester. So have you seen the revised standard module espousing flexible learning to meet the students' needs? Or have you prepared your syllabus to be at this category, that it responds to this pandemic time? So if you don't have yet that revised standard module, it's high time for you to have one, because that will help you prepare the right design for your institution or for your office to work on with the challenges of the time. Another one is, after having a welcoming heart, you have to look into that you have to conduct an assessment on the status of the NSTP as input to the adoption of flexible learning options in designing or redesigning your curriculum. So let's go back again on the readiness of the NSTP sector as far as your curriculum is concerned or syllabus is concerned under the NSTP. So you have to look into, is it relevant at the present time? Do you have a complete delivery scheme? Or do you have the right resources considering the revised minimum standard we have for NSTP? So resources, facilities to meet the technological needs of both the trainer and the students based on the designed syllabus. Do you have enough resources to be used to implement your design program? Or do you have available internet connectivity for the delivery of designed syllabus, since we are talking of online or synchronous or asynchronous way of delivering the program? So in case that you will be using your classroom, so I have discussed in detail a while ago already on the challenges, but we have to look into that we are aware of the level and the number of trainers who are knowledgeable and not knowledgeable on the flexible learning options. Are your trainers knowledgeable on these flexible learning options? Can they adapt these flexible learning options in the course of their online and offline implementation? And of course, not forgetting the compliance to health protocols, because this is the reason why we are now designing or redesigning our curriculum or our syllabus for the NSTP program. What's your delivery mode? So have you identified all the delivery mode needed in the implementation of your program? Are your identified delivery mode appropriate to the needs of the time? And of course, we have to look into also our target group readiness. So you have to look into the status of all these things. What is your level of readiness at this point in time? Let us remember that the completeness of the needed data in your study, what's the level or your status of your NSTP at this point in time? Remember that the completeness of the needed data and information will provide inputs in making correct decision and create readiness of choosing the right adoption of flexible learning options for proper NSTP implementation. So the result of the assessment will also help you in preparing your action points. So what are your action points? Of course, if you did not start making your NSTP learning continuity plan, it's high time to do so, because your NSTP learning continuity plan manifests your systems of operation as you go on implementing your program for this semester. So redesign program based on the revised minimum standard curriculum. And be sure to match the curriculum with the flexible learning options as delivery mode with the technology requirement. So you have to identify all those things. With the faculty trainer's competency in adapting the flexible learning options, or the availability of resources or facilities for both faculty, students, and your respective offices. And of course, your readiness on health protocols implementation. So in here, I will be showing to you on how this is a template. Thank you, Sir CJ, for providing this. For the NSTP modular content for flexible learning, for example, let's take drug education. So in here, if you can see the revised minimum standard, the intended learning outcome is to describe and analyze drug problem in the country and explicate on the laws that relate to the prevention and control of illicit drugs. So, what are the learning contents? Nandito po na lahat. You can see all these things on the revised minimum standard for NSTP. So in here, we're talking of the general orientation on the nature of drugs, drug menace, and expected to be done in 2 hours. So our concern today is what are the modalities that we are going to use and what are the approaches that we have to identify in order to deliver this subject matter. So as given in this example is lecture on overview of drug prevention control using the Synchronous. Okay, I've discussed to you what Synchronous already a while ago. Okay, resources. What are the resources that you have to identify in order that you can deliver the lecture through Synchronous through online basis? So in here, you have identified the Google Meet of Zoom session. So these are the resources that you're going to use. Or make use of the video on drug situation in the Philippines via YouTube. So in here, if you are identifying all these things, as much as possible, if you can place in here the established link for this, for easy catch up of your students, it is very much appreciated. Okay, for those who are having also the offline as an approach in the delivery of drug education, I'm just talking of one part of the drug education module. So learning packets on laws, drug prevention, and control. So what are these learning packets? You must be very ready for all of these things. And what are the resources that you have to do? You make use of RA 91-165. Of course, another issue one says of PIDEA as your reference test. So these are specific activities using the resources and modalities in the delivery of the subject. And of course, don't forget the assessment always. So in here, the assessment identified is activity sheets on drug laws. So poster, maybe students will be making poster and slogan or a drum problem on the solution of drug as a main concern of the country today through the use of our drug education module. So this is a specific example on how you're going to make it clear on how you're going to use your modality, the resources, in order that you can deliver well your subject matter on a particular drug education. So using the revised minimum standard of NSTP will help us standardize our implementation nationwide. So don't make use, maybe you can enrich, but you have to live along with the minimum standard as minimum kasi yun minimum standard. So you can increase it, you can enhance it. But as far as our modalities and design is concerned, this should be a way of presenting it so that every faculty will be guided well on what they will do, what modality are they going to use, what particular link are they going to use, what particular resources are they going to use, and whatever assessment tool you have designed for all of these things. And this one is a part of your continuity plan. So without this one, because this one is a myth of the continuity plan that you will be having. Otherwise, if you have not done this, please do it now, considering the time limit that we are facing, August 24. I hope we have provided you some on how you are going to do designing your program. Another example also is the citizenship training. This is the UMAC way of doing it. So thank you, Rem, for the sample. Thank you, CJ, for the drug education sample. And there are several topics identified in here under the citizenship training. So 7 topics po yan. And voter education is already a part of the citizenship training. It's no longer a part of supplemental as we have been practicing it previously. So in here, what they did was to design them. They gave timetable. This is the pacing that they have prepared so that their students will be guided well. So this is an example of their pacing. And what modality do they have? They identified blended learning using the online and offline, the synchronous and asynchronous. So under this, like what the other presentation a while ago, they had also identified Google Classroom as a resource in the delivery of the matter. So in here, they have identified Google Classroom, Zoom, Facebook, YouTube, and many more. For the offline also, they are adapting the asynchronous. They have pre-downloaded learning activities, modules of learning materials such as the PowerPoint, so the PDF file and so on. They have downloaded also videos, podcasts, and this is the strategy that they have. And they are also, I think, enjoy making use of the LMS as provided by Mutia. Okay, so it is believed by them that technology is just a tool. So in terms of getting the kids working together and motivating them, the teacher is the most important resource. So we as trainers are the most important resource at this point in time. For we give real life timely examples during discussions, which doesn't happen when they learn by reading or watching alone. So we need to give some support. So under this flexible learning, it really requires time and much preparation on the part of the trainer. So this is an example on how they did in the conduct of the program. This is the UMAC style as a part of their continuity plan. So they included the orientation. We are fond of orientation. They spent for 20 minutes, and they have identified also their resources and modalities. I will not discuss that anymore. I'll just show you this sample. Bakit tayo na? Okay, on the next part of the citizenship training is the historical part. So in here, what they did was they had identified also their resources and they have placed their link. The student will just go to this link and they will listen about the lessons identified. So it's very important that you have to identify the link related to the topic because that is an added factor for them to understand well the lesson. So they have also the assessment instrument in here. Next. So the next one is also the third one. Third one of citizenship training is the rights, the preamble, the duties, and responsibilities of citizen. So in here, the same scheme that they have, and I just want to emphasize here that in their evaluation, output activity, they require their students to make a video reciting the preamble and other requirements that they have using the rubric for video and photo posting. So in identifying your evaluation part, in preparing your syllabus, see to it that your evaluation guide is very clear. Okay, I'll just want to show you how they did this one.
We, the sovereign Filipino people, implore in the aid of Almighty God, in order to build a just and humane society, and establish a government that shall embody our ideals and aspirations, promote the common good, conserve and develop our patrimony, and secure to ourselves and our posterity the blessings of independence and democracy. Under the rule of law and the regime of
Truth, justice, freedom, love, equality, and
to ordain and promulgate
this Constitution.
Kasi stop mo na. Okay, that is just a sample of a way of evaluating their performance. And the UMAC style of doing it is even if their students are at home, when they do their NSTP, they require them to wear their uniform. That's why you have seen the students in uniform. Okay, so I think that's enough example for these lessons. That ito pa sample nila, TikTok. You can also have the TikTok video as a way of.
About the flag. Did you know that under the Republic Act 8491, Chapter 1, Section 14, the flag worn out through wear and tear shall not be thrown away.
Audio, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
To avoid misuse or desecration.
Ano, bakit? Okay, so those are just sample, and I hope you are ready having all these things because these are all guidelines that you have to consider in the implementation of the program. So this slide just show you the whole picture of the revised minimum standard under citizenship. This is a part of the continuity plan for the NSTP. Okay, and the next part is preparation of the action points. So prepare your action points, and that's your continuity plan that will guide you. It will manifest your systems of operation. So in here, you have to redesign program based on the revised minimum standard curriculum, match the curriculum with the FLOs, with the technology, with the faculty requirement, the availability of resources and facilities, including the readiness of your students and your office, and not forgetting your readiness on health protocols. So in here, we'll now execute an agile journey of the new NSTP platform. This is now your plan. So what is your NSTP platform using the flexible learning as a delivery mode? So execution will be based on the NSTP learning continuity plan with designed curriculum and appropriate modality. So where are you in now? In the first one, second one, or the third one? So in here, as you execute the agile journey for your new NSTP platform using flexible learning as delivery mode, see to it that aside from having a complete NSTP learning continuity plan, you have to remember also that you have to conduct a training program that requires the following. So in the conduct of the NSTP at this point in time, it requires the following: more preparation on the part of the trainer, because you will be dealing with online or offline. You need more coaching and mentoring, and you need more patience. Remember, patience is a virtue that we have to look into. And remember, if you have enough patience in dealing with your students, you will be blessed. And it says, and let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we don't give up. So I hope nobody will give up as we face on the challenges of the time. Okay. To sum up with the presentation, I'll show to you the system flow in migrating flexible learning options in the implementation of NSTP at this pandemic time using the model that I have presented to you. Of course, as I've discussed to you, check the flexible learning environment. So what's the culture of your people, the students and the trainers and all the workers under the NSTP? Do they have a welcoming heart that welcome the challenges faced ahead of you? Assess the NSTP status, considering the challenges of the time, then prepare your action points and execute NSTP platform with the migrated flexible learning options and mainstreaming health protocols. So with this, it is assumed that you will be having a competent, you are now ready and have a competent trainers and management. You are having office program compliant, that you are ready to match your modalities with the module contents and the availability of complete resources you have. So considering all these things, I think it will allow us to obtain the NSTP learning outcomes. And what's that? Produce NSTP graduates with ethics of service imbued with good citizenship values of being makadiyos, makatao, makakalikasan, at makabansa, and with the spirit of voluntarism with a big heart. So what a good thing to expect for everyone if you had complied all these things. So we look forward that your university or school will be a leading institution in the implementation of NSTP at this pandemic time. So adapting the appropriate flexible learning options as a delivery mode for the implementation of the National Service Training Program is an assurance to a great success. So as an implementer, just do what a welcoming heart as you face the challenges of doing your task. I know your NSTP is facing the right direction, and I hope it's facing the right direction. All you have to do is to continue moving onwards. Readiness of the NSTP management to move onwards in spite of pandemic is a key to success in NSTP implementation of the program, and at the same time, a way of serving the youth as the important resource in building the nation. So, may I just wrap up? May I just give you this last statement. Let us remember that a man who takes joy of doing favor for others is a man of honor in the eyes of God. So everything we do, we aim for success. And let's do it considering God to do it first in everything we do. So in here, may I leave you this statement, because everybody wanted to be successful in any kind of endeavor we have. So let us see your goal. So see your goal. What is the goal of the NSTP at this pandemic time in your respective institution? We have to understand the obstacles, and the obstacles is what? The COVID. Worry not. Just follow protocols. Do your best and trust on God. If God is with us, who can be against us? So create a positive mental picture. Don't worry. The power of God is greater than our worries. Be confident. Confidence will make us stable. And be sure to clear your mind with self-doubt. Believe that you can do all things through Christ who strengthens us. Let's move on and believe that we can do all things for the good of the youth in building them and make them develop them to be good citizens, because they are important resource as builders of the nation. Let us embrace the challenges as we have discussed with a grateful heart, with open mind and heart, and facing the realities in life. Just stay on track, be vigilant, act on things that will help you and your students to move on in spite of this pandemic time. Show that you can do together all work through God's grace, both you and your students. I know with the love of Christ, we can do all things together as implementors of NSTP. So to all of you, thank you very much for listening. Good luck to all NSTP implementors. Thank you, CHEDCO-OSDS, and a warm congratulations to everyone. Thank you, and God bless. Huh?
Thank you so very much, Dr. Flor Labugen, for the comprehensive and very inspiring presentation. Truly, with this, we can face the challenges of the new normal. Again, we have common comments, both in the FB comments and in the chat box. With the permission of our speaker, the participants are requesting copies of the PowerPoint presentation This is in view of the poor connectivity in some of the areas where our participants are located.
Can I respond, ma'am?
Yes, Dr. Flor.
Okay. I will be sending you the copies. I will be sending you a copy of my lecture, then you can disseminate it to them.
Thank you once again, Dr. Labugen. In the chat box, we have Sir Yon Miramar. He raised his hand. We also have Mr. Elmer Gumban from Carlos Ilado.
Well,
Sir Kevin, wala ka clarification na ihatag webinar?
Hello, good afternoon. Am I now
Yes,
acknowledged, ma'am?
are recognized.
Okay, so good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon to all the participants of today's seminar. Dr. Flor, I am so thankful for your continued support to the NSTP ever since, even in our PISNA.
Yes, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And we miss you and we thank you for your time, ma'am, and for the chat. Ma'am, I'd like to clarify on this. Right now, we are I believe that even our CHED personnel could also address on this with this regard with our ROTC. So are we still going to have our ROTC still, ma'am? And another one is it's really just seeing all the PowerPoint presentation that you've presented earlier. It's really good that I have found out that you have your syllabus and even your activities with regards to the minimum standard set by the NSTP. May I just be clarified or be enlightened if right now, or we can also have this what we call as unified syllabus so that we can have this whether what modalities that we will be using in our area because I believe that in every state universities and even the private universities and schools right now, they have these three types of students. Number one is that those who are can have access with the internet. Another one is that they have that have access like what the first seminar that we have, and we have this the third one on batch of students that they don't have access to internet and they need to have that module, ma'am. And
Uh,
another one is the draft. I could see the revised standard or minimum standard of the set by the NSTP. There is there a sign or draft water, shall we say at the back? Yes, draft, ma'am. Is it now acceptable in the CHED or our Commission on Higher Education? Thank you.
okay. Thank you for very much for that question, and I think everybody is clarified. Will be clarified. I hope everybody will be clarified on all these things. So you had posted 3 points. One is the ROTC.
Yes.
Will it continue? I think there are DND people around that they can respond because I cannot speak in behalf of them. For sure, since there are no guidelines to not to implement it, then it means to say that since it's a part of the NSTP, that they have to go because it's the same, that it's a component of the NSTP. We are just waiting for specific guidelines, and that's what we are asking yesterday in our discussion. What are the specific guidelines to implement the NSTP and the DND? Hopefully during their time, kasi there's a session on the last day that DND will talk about ROTC. So just post it and raise it again on Friday. The second one is the CHED syllabus. I think the right people to answer, although we are a part of the resource group. We have the CHED already informed us that the revised minimum standard for the first semester is already approved by the commission and bank. So maybe we can just ask copies from the CHED for it to be disseminated in your respective schools, and that will be your basis of designing or redesigning the syllabus that you have in your respective institutions, adapting the resources and flexible learning modalities. Because in there, there's no identified modalities.
Yes,
But
ma'am.
we have discussed already that flexible learning as a modality to be adapted by all programs, not only NSTP actually. So in there, maybe you can have a workshop with your faculty identifying the specifics of the resources, the modality, and the evaluation. The one that I have presented to you, given by Sir CJ, and the copy from the UMAC. So those are specific examples attached to your learning continuity plan. Because in here, you will obey, in the syllabus, we cannot see protocols, health protocols. But because of the law or the guidelines set by CHED, and it's the call of the time that we have to integrate health protocols in all the dimensions of development or module areas as specified in the minimum standard. So the third one is, this is no longer a draft. It's already approved. Maybe the copy that you have with you is just the first one, initial working documents. But now it's according to Ma'am Silbeth, it's already approved by the commission and bank, and they are now flashing. This one is the approved one. So I hope everybody will be provided with all these things so that you can design or redesign your syllabus involving the column of online, offline, that's the modality, synchronous or asynchronous, and of course with the end part as an assessment. Because if you will be providing all these things, for sure, all of your faculty will be guided well in the implementation of your NSTP in your respective institutions. Thanks, Almer.
Thank you, ma'am. See you the soonest, ma'am. God bless.
Okay, God bless too. Sir Eugene, meron pa ba?
Hindi.
We also have inquiries about the certificate of participation for this seminar. We would like to inform the group that issuance of the certificate of participation will be emailed to you at your email addresses provided in the comments section or you provided in the chat box or when you register for this webinar.
Ma'am Cindy?
Yes, Dr. Flor?
May nakapost na tanong dito kanina. are the ones presented, are the ones presented, the one we presented a while ago, a part of the approved? It's yes. It's yes. That's why we have given you the example on how you are going to do it, so that it will be easier for you when you finalize your design or redesigned syllabus, addressing it to this pandemic time. Ma'am Cindy, meron pa po ba?
Meron pa po ba tayong clarifications or concerns about the presentation of Dr. Labugin?
Ma'am Cindy?
Yes, Dr. Flor.
I can see in their chat, in the chat box, that they are asking, they are giving their email for them to be emailed on the lecture, and they're talking about the revised minimum standards for National Service Training Program, the new one, the revised one, I mean. Can the OSDS email this to the participants? They are asking that one.
Opo, Dr. Labugin. Please be informed also that the presentation and this event today, this session, will be uploaded in the YouTube, so we can send to you the complete presentations for this session.
Pati sa Facebook natin, ma'am.
Yes, including the OSDS FB page. So we have 1,402 registered participants for this session. Yung email address po ninyo ay indicate dun sa naka-indicate naman po dun sa registration. Ipapadala po namin sa inyo yung copy ng lectures. And for the succeeding webinar for day 3 tomorrow, we have the new registration link. Ralph, maybe we can flash the registration link for tomorrow.
Naging itim.
So we have here the registration link for day 3.
Sir CJ,
Yes, sir.
may i-add po ba kayo, sir?
Yung sa summation na lang, sir. Sir Eugene, I think we still have questions on the floor. We have from by PSU. Is this from Bicol Polytechnic State University, Mr. Miramar, sir. Sir Eugene.
Yung sinabi ni Sir CJ na may questions. Miramar, you have a question?
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead po, ma'am.
Mr. Miramar, I think you are already acknowledged. You may proceed with your question.
Bipsu, you've been acknowledged to ask the question.
Sir Eugene.
Sir Eugene. Sir Eugene.
Sir Faba.
Sir Eugene.
Yes, sir. Sir Faba, go ahead.
Na-acknowledge na po yun si ano. Yeah, na-acknowledge na po yun si Sir Sergio Marimar. Is he still with us?
Sir, nandito pa siya, nakikita ko pa, pero
Sir, ang sabi po niya sa link,
hindi siya kumikilos.
Parang may connectivity problem yata,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Okay.
per Mr. Marimar, my question has been answered.
Okay.
Problem yata, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
Ralph, proceed to other.
Closing na.
Kung wala nang ibang question, Sir CJ will proceed to his presentation.
Thank you very much, Sir Eugene. Allow me to have the participants for a walkthrough of what we were able to cover from day one up to today, focusing on assessment and flexible learning as the focus of attention of this summary. Time and again, we have been oriented on the different forms of flexible learning options, and this is to assure our participants in this webinar series that there's nothing to worry in migrating the delivery of NSTP, be it the CWTS, LTS, or ROTC, to what is now called the flexible learning mode. Dr. Labugan in her presentation have presented a wide array of flexible learning options for consideration by the different implementers of NSTP across the archipelago. So we would like to emphasize, however, that when we talk about flexible learning, we are not only equating it to online. So it's a combination of online, offline. And in the succeeding slides, you get to see different concepts that are linked with certain options insofar as flexible learning modality is concerned. So we have e-learning, we have blended learning, we have computer-assisted learning, computer-managed learning, we have distance learning, we have independent learning, mobile, multimedia, on-campus or in-person classroom learning. Though it was acknowledged and discussed in particular by Dr. Floor that there will be certain restrictions insofar as face-to-face interaction is concerned. So in developing your program for flexible learning, you might want to have it on a limited implementation for the in-person or the on-campus classroom learning mode. We have also online, as mentioned earlier. Open learning is another. Okay? And then we have resource-based learning as well as virtual learning. So these are different concepts that are associated with different options involving flexible learning. So you get to mix and match depending on the resources and the availability, depending on the capability and of your trainers or your teachers or
Nawawala po
your
yung audio.
instructors or the characteristics of your learners in the area. This particular slide that I am flashing to you right now was taken from the lecture of Dr. Gina Lapas Mantalan. This was presented in the 8th webinar of the Higher Education Commission on Higher Education in the context of Bangsamoro Organic Law Project of the Commission on Higher Education in partnership with the Bangsamoro Ministry of Basic, Higher, and Technical Education. I deem it a helpful tool in coming up with a comprehensive analysis on how we anticipate the offering of flexible classes. And in this particular matrix, you get to see the areas of consideration from schedule of classes to introduction approach, and then we have learning of the students and assessing students' learning. So if you will take a look at the information that are provided in this particular slides, you get to see how you can develop a program on flexible learning, and considering the characteristics of your learners, particularly insofar as technology and the connection is concerned. So we have on the second column after the first column, we have with the strong internet connectivity, and so we can opt for online following the different types as asynchronous, synchronous, and then we have the hybrid. And in each of the area of consideration, you get to also have specific information like for schedule of classes. For those with strong internet connectivity, under asynchronous, we have no regular real-time class schedule for characteristics of asynchronous. Regular real-time class schedule via web-based meeting tools. And then for hybrid, we have with selected real-time class schedule web-based meeting tools. So this is self-explanatory. If only you can find time to go over this, this will probably guide you in going about the process of migrating your delivery of NSTP to flexible learning. And then we also have on the last column with poor or no internet connectivity, and options like distance, that is a combination of online plus online remote, and blended for online plus in-person on campus. Okay, so in the discussion of Dr. Montalan, the areas of consideration were actually summed up in the acronym SILA, meaning referring to the learners. And it is very significant to note that the focus of flexible learning are the learners themselves. So we get to consider them. No? in the course of them, the learners, in so far as the transition of the delivery to the flexible learning way.
Sir CJ,
Yes, sir.
sir, baka pwede raw natin mapalakihan yung presentation. Hindi raw nila makita, sir.
This is the full, ano, sir, but this will be provided to them, sir, part of the slides po.
Okay.
This is the full screen already.
Okay, sir.
Opo. And this one matrical presentation kasi summarize everything, so you can find everything there. Anyway, it's a high resolution JPEG naka-JPEG tayo. It is in the JPEG format. Okay. And then we have on the second, on the next slide, this will sum up the different phases in the transitioning phase, in the transitioning of the flexible learning to the delivery to the flexible learning modality. So we begin with the planning of the flexible class, and then creating the flexible class, and then we have the implementing. And for the task of planning the flexible class, we note of the following important phases to undergo. We have determination of the learning outcomes anchored on the reasons in the teaching the course. So basically, we have Republic Act 9163 for basis of the designing of the program for NSTP, guided by, of course, the IRR of the said Republic Act and other issuances, which will include, among others, Republic Act 10121. So for learning outcomes, we basically answer the questions: what competencies have to be developed in every student as per letter A, discipline of the course, role of the course in helping realize the mission of the school. So we look into what are the mandates of the Republic Act, particularly the National Service Training Program, as attuned to the mission, vision, and goals of the university. So it is important to anchor your identification of competencies on these two important considerations. Okay. Then for assessment, we ask questions like, what final performance-based assessment activities shall measure the learning outcomes achieved by the student? In addition, what formative assessment activities enable the student to prepare for the successful completion of the final performance-based assessment? So, in the words of Dr. Gina, she coined the acrostic form to describe what kind of assessment may be implemented alongside flexible learning. So F for fun to do by the student, O for optimize the learning capabilities of the student, R for reveal the student's areas for improvement to prepare for the successful completion of the performance task. And then we have motivate to proceed to an advanced essential topic. And then finally, we have learning materials for essential topics. I discussed this during my session the last time, that in times of pandemic or in times of emergency, what we can do at the least to maximize the limited resources and the time that we have is to identify what most essential learning outcomes we want to achieve. Okay, so here we ask the question: what preparation strategy for the essential topic facilitated learning in any of the modalities of a flexible class? So Dr. Montalan came up with the portmanteau word active to describe the kind of strategy that may be devised in so far as the development of learning materials for the essential topics is concerned. So we have accessible to every student, talking about inclusivity, which is very fundamental insofar as the flexible learning is concerned. We have C for caters style of learning of individual students. We may take into consideration the different intelligences of our students based on the work of Gardner and Gardner. Then we have targets the essential competencies to develop in the student. And letter I for interactive presentation that utilizes prior experiences. V for values. So it's very important to also factor in values, especially for NSTP, because NSTP is a value-based course. And as mentioned by Dr. Floor earlier, we have it on the basis of the four clusters of good citizenship values. We have makadiyos, pagkamakadiyos, pagkamakatao, pagkamakabayan, at pagkamakalikasan. And then finally, we have emphasized these essential concepts to understand skills and attitude to develop. Okay? So that has reference to the development of learning materials. And then as for creating the flexible class, okay, so we have different concerns like online classroom, module by essential topic in person, on campus schedule, then implementation concerns. So we have provision for students, access to learning materials, communication and interaction with students, monitoring mechanism and the students' progress of learning, and then formulation of final summative assessment. So in the course of discussion, we have heard of assessment as an important aspect in the course of flexible learning delivery. And to sum up our discussion about assessment, it's referring to the process of documenting the knowledge, skills, attitudes, or beliefs of the learner after they have completed instructional activities. So this assessment provides information about an individual learner, a group of learners, an institution, or entire educational system. But insofar as NSTP is concerned, since considering the restrictions, so we might veer away from the usual group assessment to focusing on particularly individualized assessment. Then assessment is referring to all activities used to gauge the learner progress in general. The succeeding slides were taken from the work of Professor Mike Keppel of Charles Sturt University. And in his presentation, he captured the very essence of assessment and flexible learning. And it was pointed out that assessment becomes most effective when, number one, assessment is used to engage students in learning that is productive. So the involvement of a student is very essential in so far as flexible learning is concerned. So feedback is used to actively improve student learning. So we have, in so far as online mode is concerned, we have synchronous and asynchronous types. And this would involve real-time and, of course, no real-time type of feedback. Okay, we have students and teachers become responsible partners in learning and assessment, and students are inducted into the assessment practices and cultures of higher education. So it will vary, and it will depend on what are developing as good practices in your area of operation. Furthermore, assessment is considered to be most effective when assessment for learning is placed at the center of the subject and program design. And assessment for learning is a focus for staff and institutional development. And finally, according to Baud and Associates in 2010, it provides inclusive and trustworthy representation of student achievement. The phrase inclusive and trustworthy representation of student achievement is very essential in order to properly assess student achievement. So putting it all together for our discussions on assessment in flexible learning, the type of assessment that we are promoting in FL or flexible learning is learning-oriented assessment. So what is learning oriented assessment? So it's putting learning at the center of assessment and reconfiguring assessment design so that the learning function is emphasized. Okay? So this is what we are talking about now for learning oriented assessment in diagrammatic format. So the coverage of learning oriented assessment are as follows. So it will point out on assessment task as learning task. It's involving forward-looking feedback, and student involvement is very much observed in assessment processes. So talking about assessment task as learning task, so we have assessment tasks that determine student effort. So while students are focused on learning tasks, they also fulfill the measurement requirement of the curriculum or of the program insofar as NSTP is concerned. So we have tasks should require distribution of student time and effort throughout, not just a short burst of energy towards the end. And this is according to the work of Gibbs and Simpson in 2004. And then student involvement in assessment. So student begins to learn about assessment, and they also begin to determine the quality of their own work. So students learn about reflection, peer feedback, and self-evaluation, and some degree of student choice in assessment tasks. And finally, it's forward-looking feedback that's at play when we talk about learning-centered assessment. So it's where students need to receive appropriate feedback, which they can use to feed forward into future work. In the work of Bowd in 1995, feedback should be less final and judgmental, okay? Because we are accustomed to basically final and executory type of feedback in the traditional approach, okay, of assessment. This was corroborated by the work of Carles in 2002 and by Gibbs and Simpson in 2004, stating that feedback should be more attractive and forward-looking, and it should be timely and with the potential to be acted upon. So to illustrate further, this particular model will synthesize our discussions about learning-centered assessment. Okay. So, but you have to be very careful also in the course of assessment because there are times when we get to change it interchangeably, to use it interchangeably with the term evaluation. So the terms assessment and evaluation are of two different terms. Okay. When we talk about assessment, it's referring to how you will collect tangible data in your course in order to monitor whether the learning objective and outcomes are being fulfilled. Therefore, in summary, okay, simply put, assessments determine what students learn and how they learn it. Whereas evaluation is referring to your overall judgment on whether the course or the program has met the learning outcomes and objectives you conveyed at the beginning of the course. So in the evaluation phase of your program or your course, you will examine the data that you collected, you know, through the assessments, okay, in order to make this judgment about whether the program was successful. And as such, the assessments you develop are crucial components for evaluating your program. So in these particular slides are different types of assessments that may be devised in order to provide basis for evaluation. Okay. So we have 6 types of assessments. So we have from objective to formative, formal, subjective, summative, and informal. So I'm not going to discuss in detail. I'd just like to give the basic description of what these different types of assessments are. So we begin with the objective. So objective assessment is a form of questioning which has a single correct answer So this is usually done in the pencil and paper test. In more specific terms, we have types of exams administered, which will include, among others, multiple choice. We have identification and the like. So typically, objective assessments are easy to deliver online because the questions within the objective assessment have corresponding answers. So there are also LMS that can generate for us, or we can upload rather in certain LMS questions that have specific answers, and where the students can take their examinations from. Then we have also formative assessment. So formative assessment is involving qualitative feedback that focuses on the details of the content and the learner performance. So trainers leverage formative assessments to modify teaching and learning activities to improve learner performance. So the term formative, meaning it is done in the course of delivering the program or the course in order to develop certain competencies. So it is integrated throughout an effective an online as well as offline course. The learning goals and outcomes are inherent in each activity and assignment. So the design of the different activity and assignments is very critical in the attainment of the goals and outcomes of the NSTP for the first part and the second part as well. And then we have the formal type of assessment. This quantifies the knowledge gain, such as midterm exam or paper, and impact the learner's final grades. So this is what we usually do. We administer midterm and final exams in order to measure the student achievement. And this we do by offering a test towards the beginning or in the middle, and as well as at the end of the implementation of the program or of the course. And then we have subjective. So a form of questioning in which each question has more than one correct answer. And examples of activities that respond to this type of question include essays, short answer, and oral questions. Okay. And then we have summative. The term summative meaning it's the process of evaluating or measuring learning at the end of a unit or program delivery in order to determine the achievement of the pre-stated learning objectives and course outcomes. So you will note that for the National Service Training Program, so we have based on the provisions of the IRR of Republic Act 9163, the annual performance evaluation, and that is in order to measure the overall learning acquired by the trainee in any of the three program components. So you have CWTS, LTS, and ROTC. Okay, so let's talk about summative assessments in NSTP 1 and NSTP 2. So how do we go about the process of employing summative assessment? So we can have them for the work of doing research or coming up with portfolios. Okay, so after having implemented, say for example, a community-based initiative, it may be undertaken individually, considering the restrictions. Say when we ask the individual students to come up with family-based disaster risk reduction plan, okay, as an option or as an alternative to the usual group-led initiatives in undertaking projects to address community concerns. Okay. And then we have informal. So informal assessments are similar to formal assessments in the sense that they can be written and usually provide feedback to the learner and the instructor or the trainer. So the main difference is that the feedback or score does not contribute to a learner's final grade. So learners can use this guidance to adjust the areas in which to focus their study. So in the process, we might also be giving some inputs as to the performances of your students, which are not actually formally factored in the process of computing the grade. So informal assessments usually occur in more casual manner and may include observation, inventories, checklists, rating scales, peer and self-evaluation, and discussion. So an informal assessment provides an indication as to how a learner will perform on a formal assessment. Okay, so in addition to what were mentioned, so far as flexible learning is concerned, so we talk about practice quizzes or tests in the LMS, or it can also be done on an asynchronous manner, or perhaps end of term or end of unit practice test, okay, for modular instruction. And we have reflection videos, as was shared to us by Dr. Labugen earlier, using apps like TikTok and others. So we can also opt for blog posts, for example. Then we have journal entries. Okay. So that's for the different types of assessment. So the next sessions will deal on more specific examples. I think we will be having a resource person to discuss the virtual classroom that may be developed for NSTP, and using the so-called learning management system. And we will also have more specific session. There was an inquiry earlier on how to go about the process of implementing ROTC. So given the signal or cue from the higher authorities, we might be having a resource person on Thursday to discuss purposely the implementation of ROTC and the guidelines that are set forth to guide the operation of the program delivery of Reserve Officer Training course, in addition to the two other components. So we will be having a plenary session on Thursday to discuss in more specific terms how the migration is can be achieved in the program components of the National Service Training Program. So that's about it for our summary or synthesis and supplement to our discussion today and our first session last week. So back to you, Sir Eugene and Ma'am Cindy. Thank you very much, and magandang hapon po sa lahat.
Thank you very much, Sir Dr. CJ Vidal, for the synthesis. At this point, let us now listen to the closing message from another advocate of NSTP. Let us now hear the closing message from Major Hermie Pava, Isnay. Sir Pava.
Hello, Ma'am Cindy. Am I coming clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Okay
sir.
ba? Thank you so much, Ma'am Cindy. And I would like to greet the 1,402 participants. A pleasant afternoon, maayong hapon, magandang hapon po sa lahat. I would like also to extend our gratitude to the officials of the Commission on Higher Education, Office of Student Development Services, headed by Director Selvet Gunigundo, and the rest of the people working with her, the members of the technical working group, for this wonderful partnership with the Philippine Society of NSTP Educators and Implementers Incorporated. Likewise, the support also of our regional board of directors and the officers of PISNE, and most importantly, the resource speakers for this afternoon, the founder of PISNE and our executive director, Dr. Florida C. Labugin, and of course, Dr. CJ Vidal for helping CHEDCO-OSDS and PISNE come up with this series of webinars. The talk of Ma'am Labugin is really an eye-opener for everyone. And again, thank you so much for the very comprehensive presentation. And this is an opportunity for everyone to realize and accept the reality that COVID-19 pandemic is here to stay. And in fact, according to one expert, it will be a long horizontal journey that might take us 1 to 2 years. That is why it has severely affected the educational system, and the National Service Training Program was not an exemption. Hence, this will put to test our adversity quotient as educators of the future reservists of the National Service Reserve Corps and the Citizens Armed Forces. With the pronouncement of CHED and the national government that education must continue and that tertiary students' quest for education should not be compromised. Hence, we have to educate as one, and the flexible learning options is one of the important modality for service delivery to our NSTP students. And Ma'am Labugin has mentioned about distance learning, apprenticeship, homeschooling, face-to-face, blended learning, and the availability of learning management system. And the major question, however, is how ready are the higher education institution to deliver the needed trainings to our NSTP ROTC, NSTP CWTS, and LTS. Hence, we have to realize, according to the talk of Ma'am Labugin, that flexibility is now the name of the game. And this will be manifested if there is a schedule given by the trainers if we are ready to meet the needs of the learner. So with the challenges of the COVID-19 pandemic, technology, including internet connectivity, she made mention of 4 important things. Number 1 is the readiness of the NSTP sector. All players of the National Service Training Program, including our tri-agency. And in particular, she made mention about the NSTP Learning Continuity Plan. Secondly, she made mention about the readiness of NSTP resources. And then the third one is the readiness of the NSTP faculty or trainers, because we, the trainers, are the most important resource under the delivery of the flexible learning to our students. And finally, she made mention about the readiness of students to migrate to flexible learning options. So with this, these challenges must be addressed with a welcoming heart, and overcoming these challenges is what makes life meaningful for every one of us in the NSTP. And she ended, of course, with the acronym of success. S for see your goal, you understand obstacles. C is create a positive mental picture, clear the mind with self-doubt. E is embrace challenges. S is stay on track. And S is show that you can do together. And Sir CJ also shared to us about the ways by which we could assess and evaluate our students in relation to our adoption of the flexible learning option for the National Service Training Program. So with this, thank you so much, and we hope to see you again this coming August 13 at 1 to 5 in the afternoon, and the last day will be on August 14 from 9 o'clock to 5 o'clock in the afternoon. So once again, thank you so much for attending the second part of our webinar series. And rest assured that PESNI will be supporting the NSTP, and CHED, DND, and TESDA in the service delivery of our training to our NSTP students. Thank you, and God bless us all.
Ang Cindy.
Thank you. Hello. Thank you, Dr. Flor.
Welcome, Ma'am Cindy.
Sir CJ, thank you.
To everyone, thank you for sparing your time and
Thank you,
listening to the
Major
lecture that we
Papa.
have. Thank you, everyone.
Maraming salamat po sa lahat. Thank you, CHEDCO-OSDS.
Thank you.
Sir Paba, salamat po na marami.
Much welcome po, sir. Much welcome po.
Participants po, let's wait for the posting po ng mga presentation sa Facebook Facebook po ng OSDS. Doon po namin i-upload.
Thank you, Chet. Thank you to all participants and all our partners. God bless everyone.
Yes, ma'am. So tomorrow, ma'am, meron tayo, di ba, ma'am?
Yeah.